on Egyptian kingship and the ideology of kingship, and they're all doing presentations on, they're all picking a king or picking a dynasty if there's not as much information about that king. And it can be an Egyptian king or not. We're being pretty broad, so they can pick somebody who's not Egyptian. And they look at how that leader is portraying himself. It's usually himself, though there are female rulers out there to choose from, as we know. But how that leader is portraying him or herself to their elites, to the public, and they're doing digital exhibitions on these leaders. So it's pretty fun. And I realize what I've created as I'm sitting in the Zoom discussion with, 100 kids about, and they're asking me all these questions like, why did they destroy certain parts of the statue? When they made a statue out of a certain material, did they paint it? And why would a king depict himself wearing a Nemi's headdress in one case and a blue crown in another? And why do they not have the beard? What does it mean that it's small or big? And I'm like, oh my God, this is great. Because essentially everyone is asking about what it means to display a large monumental image of the leader versus what it means to display a small and intimate salon portrait of the leader that only few would have gotten to see. What are the different agendas involved with such depictions? And what does it mean to display wealth overtly? We talked about obelisks and how we still don't know how they were cut with such precision. Yes, we know about dolerite pounders and the remnants are there in the Aswan quarries of the poor guys who had to sit there for day upon day with dolerite pounders that were harder than the granite, going like this to remove that much stone a day. And that's how you remove a granite obelisk 10 stories high. But then once you're doing that, how do you get the precise 90-degree angles? How do you get the thing tapering to a point at the top? How do you get the super precise inscriptions of hieroglyphs and imagery? We still don't know how hard stone was cut. And as I told the students in this last discussion, that is exactly what they wanted. They don't want these miracles, the trade secrets, the state secrets to be let out of the bag. And these things have to be kept close to the vest because it helps to maintain a kingly power. So it was a fun discussion. I enjoyed it. And now I'm talking to you guys. So we also talked about, there was one student who asked, did the Egyptians really believe that the king had to do rituals every day to make the sun rise and set? And I said, no. They would have seen through time and had a cultural memory of a time period when a king was not able to do these rituals. And so there wasn't this primitive, simplistic understanding that if one man didn't do them, the sun wouldn't rise and set. That's too much, right? Instead, it was about this idea that the sun needs to give its prosperity and life-giving rays in a particular way. And that the king was the one who was activated to be able to pull that divinity into the ancient Egyptian space. And I made a comparison, and you guys can tell me if I'm crazy, but as we see the coronavirus discussions happening, there are some people of many different religious persuasions who say that we can meet in our congregation because God will keep us safe in our congregation, we'll be fine, and thus dismiss some of the health warnings and worries. There are also people who are using this virus ideologically to say that some places have been stricken more harshly with the virus because they are sinning in particular ways. Again, I've seen this from many different religious perspectives. And there is an idea that I think is really interesting to follow up on, associated with leadership, that involves a kind of predestination, that when bad things happen, a leader can communicate to his people that you, my chosen ones, are predestined to be kept safe, and I will keep you safe. If things are going well, it's because I was predestined, I was chosen as king. It's the same reason that in the United States, if the economy is going well, then the king, if the economy is going well, the president gets to be reelected. It's not that much different from ancient Egypt. And it means that we human beings, though we look at the ancient world as being so primitive and simple, and how could they think this ways? We think these ways. We think that the president of the United States is responsible for an economy, as opposed to it being systematically created over decades by an organic human being that creates certain things, and that things move in certain directions, and this one person at the tip of the spear really doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. But we make these decisions almost shamanistically. If the economy goes bad, we decide, okay, get the guy out. He's not doing it right. Not that poor decisions can't be made, but it's an interesting thing that we still make these knee-jerk reactions about what is good leadership and what is bad leadership by how well we think the gods are being pulled into our world, and how much we see prosperity being pulled into our world. So pretty similar to the ancient Egyptians from that perspective. Not that you got to vote leaders in or out of power in ancient Egypt, but I think the elites had a lot more power than we can see. And I think that the kings had to please them a lot more than we give credit for. So Trump is a king. No, oh dear. Hey, from Houston. My parents are in Houston, and they're doing well. Everyone's still safe and healthy. Brazil, that's wonderful. And I know people from Egypt are watching. That's good. Yeah, so getting back to some of these ideas, and then I have to go take my next call, so this will be a short one. The obelisk, which was what one student was asking about, and hard stones and what it means. The obelisk is like a miracle of prosperity. It's like a predestination of prosperity. If a king has the ability, strength, wherewithal, can marshal the power, the skill sets to put up an obelisk 10 stories high, then that king is predestining himself to be economically successful. It is a way of proving a fait accompli. It's already been done. And I want you guys to all go out and look at the world around you and see how leaders have placed monuments in certain places, have made communications in certain places as a kind of predestination of success. The Calvinists didn't invent predestination. This idea of something already being so before it is so, and a God-given thing before we could see it, is a very old human idea. The other thing that we talked about that I think is really interesting and very relevant for what we deal with today economically in terms of leaders is trickle down. And they're like, but why would they let the people at the top take all of this stuff and present all of this wealth and show all of this power? And I'm like, because people believe in trickle down economies, trickle down religion, trickle down ideology. They believe that if you stick close to the popular person, that you'll be popular too. That if you hang out with the rich people, then not just that the rich will rub off on you, but the connections to those rich people and their opportunities will certainly find their way to you. So these ideas of trickle down, where it gets more confusing to me and where I'm not quite sure, is that if a leader is placing some big image of themselves, and that can happen in a number of ways. It can be a big monumental statue from Egypt or from Stalinist Russia, or it could be a big military flyover over an NFL field. It could be something that we don't really get to participate in. We get to consume and we get to witness, but its power and strength trickles down to us. So if Stalin is staring at you from on high, or Ramses II from on high, you feel watched, protected. You feel like his strength is your strength. The military is your military. That military flyover over an NFL field, that military strength, that American strength is your strength somehow. This idea of trickle down, I think one reason that rich people use it so often and say, oh, I'm rich and so you'll be rich. I'm rich and I'm going to create jobs. You need to keep me rich. You need to allow me to be rich. You need to let me not pay taxes. This has been going on since complex civilization has existed. And people buy into it because not just because they believe they can be rich too, but they believe that some of that wealth will trickle down to them. So lots of, yeah. Signature on the check. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'll leave you guys to point out the overt similarities from the ancient world to today's world in terms of power and ideology. It's all there. I'll point out some of the more obvious things, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. So we'll leave this one short and sweet. I'll call it trickle down of power or something like that, and get this posted, and I'll try to talk to you guys again tomorrow. Okay? Hang in there, stay healthy, be kind, you know the drill. And I'm gonna go check on my friend who is very sick with the thing, and oh my God. Okay, everyone hang out and do well.